I'm going to read you a quick article, and then I'm going to give you some information. The article is Calling the Death of Windows Mobile, and this is posted by Matt Assay, or Assay, I think. I don't know how you pronounce it. January the 30th, 2009, 9:07 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Fabrizio Capobianco, CEO of open source mobile leader Funambole, or Funambole, I don't know how you pronounce that, has more or less declared that Windows Mobile is dying. Indeed, it is arguably the case that the proprietary software model generally is largely dead in mobile. Why is mobile computing shifting to open source? Because the mobile world has learned from the desktop wars with Microsoft, and Capobianco argues, hardware vendors have seen what happened to them in the PC world. Totally marginalized. They won't let Microsoft or anyone else do it in the mobile as well. They are much smarter now. They know they have to control their destiny and differentiate on the operating system as well. They know the answer is open source. While it is true that Apple and Research in Motion, i.e. RIM, seem to be doing quite well with their end-to-end proprietary everything models, those two companies represent a small slice of the overall market for embedded software on mobile devices. From mobile phones to Wi-Fi routers, open source increasingly dominates because, ironically, it doesn't dominate. Open source cedes control of the software to the hardware vendors, a fact that they appreciate and embrace. So although I expect to see Apple and its kind thrive by resolving complexity for consumers, I also suspect that we will see rapid uptake in open source by hardware manufacturers desperate to distinguish themselves from the pack. The easiest way to do that? With software. The easiest software the easiest software to modify and customize? Yep, it's open source. And then there's a link to follow him on Twitter, and I will go ahead and provide this link on my description. This is a CNET article. Now, let me explain something. For those of you who have not seen it yet, you can take a look at my video on the Braille Speak. For the past 20 years or so, we've used Notetakers like it, and recently, from 2000 until now, they've all run under Windows CE, and the biggest one in terms of being a mainstream, or as close to mainstream device as you can get, is the PackMate, because it literally is a pocket PC device, just in the form of a keyboard and screen reader as opposed to a touchscreen and stylus. But it's the exact same thing as a Windows Mobile PDA. And that's actually not a good thing. If this article is right. Now, I'm not saying it is. I mean, they might be, but we don't know when this is happening. The trouble is, Notetaker manufacturers, particularly the proprietary ones, especially Humanware, I think they're very slowly pushing us towards the mainstream devices. As such, we move from our Notetaker PDAs, which are proprietary, to mainstream devices with screen readers. They have screen readers now for mainstream devices. The bug here is the only mainstream PDA or smartphone that's accessible is pretty much anything running Windows Mobile. Now, if Windows Mobile is indeed dead, we need to get the open source community involved here and create some screen readers for some proprietary devices, or else we're going to be left in the dust. And by we, I mean the people of the visually challenged community. We're going to be left in the dust because Windows Mobile is no longer going to exist, and as such, accessibility will be closed. So if anybody from the open source community or from BlackBerry or from Apple is watching this, let's see something. Let's see some work done in accessibility for the devices. If Windows Mobile is truly going to die, we're going to need something, and we're going to need something fast. Because let's face it, a mainstream device, when all is said and done, is, depending on your needs, it could very well be a cheaper solution than a PackMate or a Braille note. And let's face it, people with disabilities want to be as mainstream as possible. So developing the screen readers for these PDAs was an inevitable thing. But now that these PDAs, the platform for them, i.e. Windows Mobile, may be going into the drink, we need some action from the other manufacturers. We need some action from RIM and from the open source community. What about Apple? Apple might actually have it the easiest of all. Why? Because what they've done with the iPhone is to develop a baby version of OS X. And this is not like Windows Mobile. What Microsoft did with Windows Mobile was create some completely different operating system and gave it the look of Windows Mobile, or the look of Windows, so that people would be familiar with it. But truthfully, overall the experience is very bad. Because the devices and the manufacturers of the device, they vary so greatly that Windows Mobile can have problems. Apple, on the other hand, has created a baby version of OS X that is seen on the Macintosh. In fact, it uses a lot of the exact same development principles. As such, I don't think it would be too difficult to get VoiceOver onto the iPhone and the iPod Touch. The kink here is going to be in getting it to be accessible because of the capacitive touchscreen. But I'll try to find the link and post it in this video. If you don't see it, then that means I'm still looking for it. But I will definitely try to post it as somewhere in my email archives. Some outfit has created a prototype overlay, and this is actually, it's like a case that you stick the iPhone into. You stick your iPhone into this case, and on the front of the case is some tactile identification, tactile shapes. This is, like I said, this is just a prototype. But if we can get the interface to work, and we can put VoiceOver on the iPhone, granted you might not get Alex, but you'll get something. If we can get VoiceOver on the iPhone and RIM, iPhone and iPod Touch, because the iPod Touch, because of its downloadable apps, it's really become a PDA. It's more than just an iPod now. It's definitely a PDA. And so we can get VoiceOver on the iPhone and the iPod Touch. RIM, that leaves you. We need something, and we need something quick. Well, I wouldn't say quick, but, you know, at least start on something. You know, give us a screen reader. Voice activation is not enough, because a lot of times the voice activation leaves you in the dust when it comes to certain features. For example, this phone. I have access to my contacts. I can dial a number, I can add a number, I can erase a number. I can view my text messages. This is all by voice. I can view my text messages, I can check the date and time. I can't go in and access the calendar. I cannot go in and write a note without some sighted assistance. If I needed to. I don't use the voice all the time, but if I needed to, I wouldn't be able to go in and use the notepad. I wouldn't be able to use the calendar. So you can see that you get left behind if you just use voice alone. So we need a screen reader from you, RIM. If anybody in the third party is willing to develop a screen reader for the BlackBerry, let's hear it. As far as the Palm Pre, that's an open source Linux device, because the Palm Pre's operating system is Linux based. So that goes right along with the open source having to develop a screen reader. Now the open source might have it pretty easy. They could probably take Orca or something and modify it. And Apple, like I said, port VoiceOver over. Kind of silly. But yeah, RIM, get a BlackBerry screen reader. That's all I have to say. Thank you for watching and have a nice evening.